呃Isa, você está mutada.
Bom dia! Sejam muito bem-vindos e bem-vindas à nossa primeira palestra da ação InspiraAção, nosso projeto Estimulando Futuros. Nós ficamos muito felizes em iniciarmos hoje com a presença da professora Sue Black. Eu gostaria de me apresentar, eu sou a professora Isabela Gasparini, da UDESC, em Joinville. E temos aqui hoje duas alunas do nosso programa de pós-graduação de Computação Aplicada, a Joyce Jerônimo, doutoranda da Computação, e a Laís Van Vonsen, que é a mestranda da Computação, e ambas são gerentes junto comigo no projeto. Muito obrigada, meninas, por estarem aqui, montarem
Obrigada.
toda essa infraestrutura para podermos fazer a palestra de hoje. Hoje, pessoal, nós vamos começar com a grande inspiração que é a professora Sue Black. Então, eu vou passar aqui uns pequenos slides para apresentar para vocês um pouquinho sobre o nosso projeto e sobre ela, e vou convidá-la para o palco, né? Então, lembrando que como a professora, né, ela é lá na Inglaterra, a apresentação dela vai ser tudo em inglês, mas que posteriormente nós vamos fazer a tradução e deixar, né, a tradução da palestra dela, da fala dela, online no YouTube para vocês. Então, agradecemos as inscrições de vocês e esperamos poder cada vez mais nos conectarmos. Então, hoje, né, nós começamos a nossa apresentação. Laís, pode passar? Então, primeiro, a gente vai falar um pouquinho sobre o nosso projeto. Então, o nosso projeto, intitulado Estimulando Futuros, ele tem como objetivo formar, capacitar as meninas, tanto do ensino fundamental 2, do ensino médio, da graduação, nas áreas de STEM, né, que é as áreas de ciência, tecnologia, engenharia e matemática, incluindo também um processo de mentoria, experiências práticas, um projeto de vida, projetos integradores, e para isso a gente tem 5 eixos de formação. Nós não colocamos aqui nos slides para não ficar muito cheio de conteúdo, mas só passando rapidamente, esses 5 eixos de formação são relacionados ao pensamento computacional e programação, à ciência de dados e inteligência artificial, a empreendedorismo e inovação, a jogos e gamificação e a computação e sociedade. Então, culminando num projeto final, onde as meninas vão apresentar em grupo um projeto num hackathon educacional. Neste momento, nós temos 6 escolas envolvidas, escolas tanto municipais, estaduais, institutos federais, e escolas abrangendo todo o estado, né, de Santa Catarina, então aqui em Joinville, mas também em Caçador, em Guaramirim, mas nós pretendemos expandir este projeto para mais escolas. Esse é um projeto que vai durar 3 anos, apoiado, né, então ele é patrocinado pelo CNPq, de um edital do CNPq específico, e apoiado tanto pelas meninas digitais quanto a SBC, né, a Sociedade Brasileira de Computação, e por diversas outras instituições nas quais somos parceiras e que apresentamos aqui para vocês. As meninas vão fazer encontros semanais, de em torno de 4 horas, e cada escola, né, no ensino fundamental e ensino médio, tem aproximadamente 5 a 6 estudantes. E para cada uma delas nós temos uma professora envolvida, né? Então, nós sabemos que muitas delas estão aí, então agradecemos pela confiança de participar do projeto. E quem não está ainda no projeto, a professora que gostaria de participar de forma voluntária pode entrar em contato com a gente. A Joyce vai mandar o e-mail daqui a pouco para vocês aí no chat e vocês podem entrar em contato conosco. Então, sem mais delongas, eu vou apresentar um pouquinho a professora Sue Black. Agora, eu vou pedir a permissão de vocês e vou começar a falar em inglês. Então, quem é a Sue, né? A Sue Black, agora eu vou falar em inglês, pessoal. Ela tem Award-winning Computer Science, Technology, Evangelist and Digital Skills Expert. Ela é OBE, pessoal, Order of British Empire. Ela tem esse título. For Services to Technology in 2016 Queen's New Year's Honors List. Professor of Computer Science and Technology Evangelist in the Department of Computer Science at Durham University. UK Government Advisor to Leader, Trust and Community Relief. Social enterprise, writer, and public speaker. Sue set up the UK's first online network for women in tech, BCAW Women, in 1998, and leads the campaign to save Bletchley Park. Então, para quem não lembra, né, Bletchley Park é uma cidade muito importante, né, onde Alan Turing ficou por muito tempo. E a professora Sue Black, ela tem um livro sobre o Alan Turing muito importante também. Aqui nós temos algumas fotos em que nós tivemos a honra de receber a professora Sue Black na UDESC há algum tempinho atrás, né? Então, no ano retrasado, ela veio pessoalmente para falar um pouco da sua trajetória e teve a honra, né, de apresentar os seus projetos para a gente. So, thank you so much, Sue. I will ask you to stay on the stage, on the floor, and with us.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Sorry to speak some parts in English, some part in Portuguese, but I would like to explain some parts of the project and about you, about your book, about why, né, I meet you the first time. So I'm really glad to start this project, to start the talks with the girls with you, because you are an inspiration, a real inspiration, and we can see that all women can get it, can become a woman in tech. So first of all, could you tell us about your trajectory of life and how you become who you are?
Sure. Well, I'm quite old now, so that will take a long time. Yeah, so like I come from an average family. Both my parents were nurses, and I have a brother and sister who are 5 twins and 5 years younger than me. And I had like just a uneventful life, I guess, until I was 12, when unfortunately my mother died really suddenly. She was only 34. And she just had a headache one day, and 2 days later, we had to turn off the life support machine. So, of course, that was a massive, it was just terrible at that age for us. And then my father remarried quite quickly, and possibly to the wrong person. Well, in my opinion, he married someone that wasn't very nice. So she didn't look after us well, and we were neglected, and there was lots of emotional and some physical cruelty in my family, unfortunately. And so I wanted to leave home as soon as I could, which was when I was 16. So when I was 16, I left home and moved in with my friend's family, my friend Kate's family, and lived with her and her family for a year and a half. I was then like 16, going to 17. I wanted to stay on at school, but it was impossible because I had to work in the evenings and the weekends to pay rent to my friend's family because they didn't have much money. So I tried to stay on at school, but that didn't work out. I was falling asleep at school. And so I realized that there's no point being there. I won't pass my exams. So I decided to leave and to get a job. So I left school when I was 17, and I worked in like an admin role for a few months, which I found really boring. And then I worked with refugees for a year. So that was really fun. Refugees from Vietnam at that time. And I was like a residential volunteer. So, I lived in the same house as, in the first place, in the same place as 200 refugees. And then the second place I worked as 60 refugees that are families. Learned some Vietnamese and had a really great time. Then I thought, like, I need a career. This is not a career, even though I'm enjoying it. So I decided to try nursing, like so many people in my family were nurses, so I thought, well, I'll try nursing. So I applied and got into a hospital in London as a student nurse. But I really didn't like it at all, unfortunately. I didn't think about the fact that if you're a nurse, you have to talk to the patients, to people you don't know. And I was really, really shy. So for me, like talking to people I didn't know was like the worst thing that you could ask me to do. And I don't know why I didn't think about that before I applied to be a nurse. But yeah, I was just like the worst nurse ever, and very scared of everybody. And then I thought, well, what sort of job am I going to do? And I thought, well, at school, my favorite subject was mathematics. So why don't I try and find a job which includes maths? So I went to the local job centre where they advertised jobs and found that there was a job working for a record company called RCA in the accounts department. So it would be doing some maths, and it was for a record company. And by then I was 18, so I was really excited to be working for a company, for a record company. So I applied for that job and I got it. So I worked there for 2 years, and most of the time enjoyed myself, met some kind of pop stars on the stairs, and we got free entrance to like pop concerts and music concerts. So that was all good. So I had a great time there. Then when I was 20, my boyfriend proposed to me, asked me to marry him. So we got married, and then I had my first daughter when I was 21. And so I left work and had my daughter. And then I thought, well, I'll have one more baby and then I'll go back to work like full time. And that other baby turned out to be twin boys. So by the time I was 23, I had 3 children under the age of 2.5. So I was quite busy looking after 3 small children at home. Then unfortunately, my marriage broke down. My ex-husband became violent, and we had to run away one morning to the other side of London to a women's refuge. And we lived there for 6 months, and then got a place to live on the other side of London in Brixton in South London, and started life again. So I thought, well, I need to earn some money. Like I'm a single parent now. I need to earn money to look after my children and, bring them up the way that I want to. So I looked to see what jobs were available. And when I looked, I found that I could work like in a supermarket or as an admin person in an office. But for that amount of money that I would get, I'd be on minimum wage in the UK. And so when I looked at how much I would be able to earn, I realised that I wouldn't even be able to pay for childcare for 3 children from that amount of money. Then I realised I couldn't go back to work. It just wasn't possible. So then I thought, well, why don't I try and go back into education? I didn't want to leave education in the first place. I wanted to stay on at school. So why don't I try and go back into education now? I went along to the local college to see if they had maths A-level, maths qualifications. And they luckily had like a fast track maths course, which was 1 year and equivalent to 2 A-levels, which would allow me to apply to university. So in 1 year, I joined that course and did the equivalent of 2 A-levels in 1 year, which meant I applied for university. Applied for university and got a place to study computer science at the university which was closest to me. The first year was quite hard because by then I was 26 and I hadn't studied for 10 years since I was 16, really. And also I had 3 children that I had to take to school and childcare every day. And so I would take the children to school, drop them at 9 o'clock in the morning, then I'd get to university at 10, and then I'd leave at 2 p.m. to go and pick the children up from school at 3, which meant that because the lectures went from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., I missed lots of lectures. And we had to get 50% to pass the first year. And I think I got like 52% or something. So I just managed to get through the first year. But then as time went on, things got a bit easier and a bit easier. The children were getting bigger. I was getting more used to studying. And I did a 4-year degree with a 1-year work placement in the 3rd year, which I enjoyed. And so 4 years after I started, I graduated with a 2-1 in computing, which was great. And in the final year of my degree, my project supervisor, my dissertation supervisor, asked me whether I was interested in doing a PhD. So I said, oh, I'd love to do a PhD. But what I didn't tell him was I didn't know what a PhD was. And so I had to go and look it up afterwards, after the meeting. And then when I found out that it would be paid, and that I'd be doing research with him as a supervisor, and it was in an area that I was interested in, I thought, yeah, I would actually love to do a PhD. So I applied for the PhD position, had an interview and got a place. So then I was doing a PhD. And it took me 7 years to get a PhD. So I did 3 years full-time. And then finished it part-time, because after 3 years I applied for a full-time lectureship, so for a full-time job at the university, and managed to get that. So I became a full-time lecturer and finished my PhD off part-time. During my PhD, my supervisor said, you need to, it's not just about what you know, it's who you know as well. So when we go out to conferences, you need to network. You need people to know who you are, so that if you send in a research paper for them to look at, then they think, okay, Sue Black, I know who she is. I talked to her at this conference, kind of thing. So when I was going to conferences, again, I was still really shy even by then. At age, I must have been on 30 then. Age 30, I was still really shy. And going to conferences, I was really scared to talk to people. But I thought, well, my supervisors told me I have to go and talk to people, so I have to go and talk to people. So I kind of forced myself to talk to people at conferences. And sometimes that went great, and other times it was not so good. And I remember one time when, I was kind of thinking, okay, who am I going to talk to at this conference? And there was a guy on stage who seemed very down to earth and kind of friendly. And I thought, well, I'll go and talk to him in the coffee break, in the tea break. And so I did, and we had a good chat about our research, and which was great. But then for the rest of the conference, every time I turned around, he was staring at me, and I got really freaked out. And I thought, have I done something wrong? Did I say something to upset him? I didn't know why that happened, and now I think I wouldn't even notice if it happens to me now. But back then I was very hypersensitive, very aware of everything that was going on, and the way people were behaving, because I was so shy and underconfident. And so that really kind of scared me, and I didn't quite know if I'd done something wrong. And no, I don't think I did anything wrong. I think he probably just thought, oh, that's that that's that young lady who was talking to me earlier, or something. But yeah, I was very worried about that. And so I had some good experiences at conferences and some bad. And it wasn't really till I went to a Women in Science conference in Brussels in 1998 that I remember walking in and feeling to myself like, how's this one going to go? Is it going to be good, or am I going to upset someone? Or, I just don't know. But I was kind of scared walking in. And because, it will be lots of people that I'd never met before. And so I walked in and got my badge at the registration desk and went to get a coffee, and stood at a table, and and it was Women in Science, so there were other women there. And I didn't actually have to start conversations with anyone, because it just felt like everybody was talking to everybody. And I just had the best time there at that conference for 2 whole days. Made loads of friends, some of whom I'm still in touch with today, and just had a really amazing time. And it really helped me to realize that if you're in the majority, life is just easier. And of course that's obvious, but it hadn't really dawned on me in that kind of way until then. When I was going to normal computer science conferences, it was probably about 80 or 90% men and about 10 or 20% women. And I'd never even thought of that as a thing before. That's just how it was. But just the whole atmosphere was so different going to a women in science conference, in that it was just loads of women talking to each other, all excited about technology or engineering, and having a chat about what they did, and getting together and having lots of interesting conversations. And so it was just much more relaxed and friendly and fun. And so I just had the best time. I came back from that conference and thought, well, it can't just be me as a woman that's having this experience. So I set up the UK's first online network for women in tech back then in 98. And several hundred women joined pretty much straight away. And it's still going strong today. And the whole idea with that really was, to start with, was just to connect everyone with each other, so that we could have the same experience that I had in person online. And also we could connect with each other. And then if we were going to a conference, we could say, I'm going to this conference, is anyone else going? And then we could meet up with those women at the conference. So that went really well. And then in 2003 was the first time that I got invited up to Bletchley Park, which is where the code breakers worked in the UK during the Second World War. And I got invited up there the first time because I was leading this group of women in tech. And so I went to the meeting, and then I walked around the site afterwards, and it's a museum. It's a 26-acre site, so quite a big site with lots of different buildings. And all I knew was that the code breakers worked there, and during the Second World War, so like 1939 to 1945. And I didn't really know anything else about the place. I ended up chatting to these guys there who were rebuilding this sort of amazing feat of engineering, which turned out to be one of Alan Turing's bomb machines. So one of the machines that industrialized the code breaking process during the war. And so I was asking them about this and what it was. And, they told me all of that. And then they said, well, why are you here today? So I said, I'm representing this group of women in computing. And they said, did you know that more than half the people that worked at Bletchley Park were women? So I said, no, I didn't realize that. How many people worked here? And they said more than 10,000. So I was completely blown away by that. And it turns out that about 8,000 women worked at Bletchley Park and about 2,000 men. But from my, the things that I'd seen around the site, there wasn't much mention of any women working there at all. It was all about, or mainly about, the men. So I went away that day and eventually raised some funding to run a project to capture the memories of the women that worked at Bletchley Park, an oral history, so to interview them and find out what they did there and their experiences. And then at the launch of that project in 2008, the director of Bletchley Park at the time said that Bletchley Park might have to close, so the museum might have to close, the place where they all worked, because they were running out of money. Not many people were going to visit. And he said, and if we close, we'll never be able to open again. It would just be too difficult. So I thought, well, that's terrible. I don't want that place to close. And then a few weeks after that, I was invited up to Bletchley Park again to a reception there, and got to do like a full tour of the site with one of the code breakers, so one of the guys that worked there during the war. And he was telling us about all these amazing code breaking achievements, some by women as young as men and women as young as like 16, 18. And I just thought, well, this is all these amazing stories. And then we got to the end of the tour, and he said, and the work that was done here was said to have shortened World War II by 2 years. And at that time, 11 million people a year were dying. So potentially the work that was done there saved 22 million lives. And I thought, well, this place can't close. I've got to do something about it. So going back to my career, so I did my PhD, became a lecturer, and then I just applied for promotion anytime I could. So by then I was a lecturer, then a senior lecturer, then a principal lecturer. And by now in 2008, I was head of department. So I was head of a computer science department at the University of Westminster in London. And because I was head of department, I was on an email list for all heads and professors of computing in the UK. So I emailed everyone and said, we've got to save Bletchley Park. And I also contacted the media, like the BBC and various journalists. And the next week managed to get onto like BBC News. And we wrote a letter to the Times newspaper saying we've got to save Bletchley Park. And I was on the national radio and stuff. So that had a bit of an impact in that lots of people got in touch with me saying they wanted to help. But actually Bletchley Park didn't get any more money at that point, which was what they needed. And it wasn't until I started using Twitter back at the end of 2008 that I realised quite quickly that here was a way I could connect with people all around the world who were already tweeting about code breaking or Second World War or Bletchley Park and talk to them. And so that's what I did. I, like, every morning and every evening on my way to work and on my way back again, I'd be finding people through Twitter that were interested and asking them to help save Bletchley Park. I set up a blog to document what we were doing as part of the campaign, and managed to get well-known people like Stephen Fry in the UK, who at that time had the most followers in the UK of anybody in the UK. Got him involved and various other people. I got Google involved, and so the campaign ran for 3 years in the end, but eventually in 2011 the director said that Bletchley Park was saved, thank goodness. And then after that, so going back to my job, I left University of Westminster in 2010, I think. So I carried on the campaign after that. I wrote the book Saving Bletchley Park to document what we'd done, because it was an early use of social media campaigning in that way. I set up a social enterprise called Tech Mums to teach tech skills to mums living in areas of disadvantage, which ran until lockdown, when unfortunately we had to shut it down because we ran out of funding and we couldn't teach online, because the whole idea was to teach in person. But that ran for about 10 years, and then I got asked more and more to give talks at conferences, universities, schools, all around the world, in different things. So I've just come back from China, Japan, Australia, New Zealand and Singapore, having spoken in all of those countries. So sometimes like for the UK government or the UK New Zealand government event, or I spoke at a cybersecurity conference. So I give talks all around the world now, and I really enjoy doing that. So that's interesting, because I've gone from being so scared of standing in front of, like, the first time I taught a class, I didn't sleep the night before, and I was going to be teaching 10 students. And now, well, in 2017, I think I won the Grace Hopper Social Impact Award. And so I got to give a speech in front of 17,000 women in tech. So I kind of feel like you can change yourself and how you feel about things if you want to. I think that's one of the things that I've learned really through my life and career. And so now I work at Durham University. I'm Professor of Computer Science and Technology Evangelist, and run a program there called Tech Up Women, which is retraining women from underserved communities into tech careers. And we've had about 400 women go through the program, many of them to great success, becoming role models themselves and winning awards for being women in tech. And that project's ongoing. We've got a team of about 8 people that help us to deliver that. And I'm still doing lots of things around women in tech, and, well, all different sorts of things. I've got PhD students. I teach our first year, so it's a class of 270 students in the first year. And shall I stop there? I realise I've been talking for quite a long time now.
So it's really inspiration, because it's really hard to change the world and change the world for us, including. So really, I'm really glad that we start this series about inspirational woman with you.
Oh,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have a lot of questions, but yes, Laís, but please, this is the book that Sue talking about, and we put the link in the chat for who wants to buy, because it's really a great book, really great investigation that Sue did. So I recommend the book for all of you. Okay, so I start to ask questions, but we try to, Laís will put some questions for the audience and myself too. So I will start with your trajectory, right?
yeah.
I have one that is, what were some of the biggest challenges you face as a woman in entering in tech field, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, confidence was a big thing. I was so, when I think back to when I started teaching, I was just so scared of standing in front of people. And the night before my first class, I didn't sleep. And then before I went into the classroom the first time, I sat in the toilets, in the toilet cubicle beforehand, thinking, how am I going to do this? And I sat there thinking I would rather have a heart attack and die than go and teach that class, because I was so scared of standing up in front of people and talking. And in the end, I decided to pretend that I was someone else and go in the classroom pretending that I was my friend who was really confident. And that seemed to work like the first time, and then it all went fine. And then, I was a bit scared the next time and the next time and the next time. So I think confidence was kind of the hardest thing to overcome to start with. But I just kind of kept challenging myself over and over again. And so, I think once you do become more confident, it takes time. But if you keep pushing yourself and also surround yourself with people that support you to do what you want to do, and find like mentors and advocates or people at your level, but also higher up in organizations to help support you in your career, in your life, then that can make a really big difference. Because I think one of the biggest differences for me has been going from being in a marriage basically where I was told I was too fat and like I would never amount to anything all the time, through to now having a husband who supports everything that I do, and it's like my sort of cheerleader, I suppose. Is very proud of me and supports me and helps me to achieve, and the difference between those two situations is just so massive. But it doesn't have to be a husband. You just need people around you that support you, I think. So it could be friends, family, colleagues. Don't let people that are negative towards you affect how you feel about yourself. Find the people that do support you and make sure you listen to them. I've forgotten what your question was now, sorry.
Thank you so much, Sue, for talking about your trajectory with us. It was really amazing to hear this story. And we have, when we started STEAMulando Futuros, our project, we already were able to impact at least one girl that we know that thought she couldn't do STEAM, she couldn't do this area, but after starting on the project, she talked to her professor, her teacher, and she said she now thinks she can do it, and we felt really happy about that. And we want to know about your experience with that. What was an specific moment in your life, in your career, that made you realize you had an impact in women in STEAM?
I think there's a few, that I've been talking about, really. I mean, because I've done so many things around women in STEM now, so setting up BCS Women, but also helping other people to set up groups, and the projects that I've run, and the students that I've taught over the years. I've probably taught I have taught thousands of students over the years, and met lots of women working in tech or wanting to work in tech over the years. And so I've always encouraged everyone, and if they need someone to talk to, I've been there to talk to them. And then over time, that's come back to me as a massive kind of like boost for me, in that so many women that I might have taught 20 years ago or had a conversation with 10 years ago will message me on LinkedIn or email me and say, oh, you won't remember me, but like 10 years ago we had a chat and I told you my issues and you said blah 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 blah, and I just wanted to tell you that I did X, Y, and Z, and now I'm a, I don't know, senior blah 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 something, or I'm now successful. And so that happens to me a lot now. And well, just recently I gave a talk at Gateshead College up in the north of England, and the lecturer there who asked me to come in talk, I taught her, I think like 25 years ago at university, and and now she teaches computer science in the college, and so then she's affecting loads and loads of women and girls and boys as well. And so I think one of the thing that makes me happiest in my life is just realizing that I've affected so many people over time, but also then those people have affected other people as well in a positive way.
So we have a lot of questions, but I will try to filter some because we have our schedule. But what advice would you give to young girls who love STEM but struggle with confidence and lack of support?
I think get together. So I think, like if there's a group of you or even just two of you, it's so much easier than doing it on your own. So get together and talk about the things that you're doing or want to do, and then find support from other people that can help you to progress in what you want to do. So it might be, if you're a 12-year-old girl, it could be like 15-year-old girls that might help you, or your teacher, or, someone who's able to give you access to things that maybe you don't know how to get, which could be education, information, or it might be facilities or something. I think just get together with other girls and then find people to support you.
Thank you. And what do you think the future holds for women in STEAM? And what do you think still needs to change?
Yeah, so I hope one day we won't have to talk about women in STEM, because it'll be everybody working together. And I think, I think we're moving in the right direction. I think that, there's technology and engineering are kind of part of almost every job role now in some way, and will be even more now with AI. So I think that we're going to need more and more people working in STEM. And so that means more and more diversity and more women. And I think that companies and organizations that recognize that we need more diversity, more women in STEM, are going to be the ones that are going to be successful in the future, because we're now operating in a global marketplace. And so if companies want to create products and services that are fit for purpose for their customers, then they're going to need to have people from all different backgrounds creating, testing those products. And so, I feel like the future is bright. And I think, the confidence thing is a big issue with girls and women, but I think that's not our fault. That's society that's kind of put that pressure on us. So we shouldn't feel that it's just us as individuals. Society has made us feel underconfident, so less confident than we should be. And so we should reclaim that and work together to boost each other's confidence and support each other, because that's when you can really make a difference. And I think girls are brought up still to make sure everyone else is okay and then put yourself last. And so I think that's why you end up feeling underconfident or imposter syndrome or something. It's because of that society pressure, which maybe a few hundred years ago made sense, because women were having there was no contraception, women were having babies, and so women had to look after everybody, because men, I don't know if it actually was like this ever, but kind of in my head, the traditional roles probably made sense like 500, 1,000 years ago, but they don't really make sense anymore. We've got as much opportunities as we want to take now. And we should realize that if we feel underconfident or worry about our confidence, that's not because we're not good enough. That's because society's encouraged us to behave in this way, encouraged us to be in this role. So yeah, we should just get out there and go for it and support each other.
This is really great advice. And what roles or allies, like teachers, family? Oh, no. That's another question that I think it's better. How can schools and university better support girls and women in STEM pathways, especially in underrepresented regions?
Yeah, so I think there's various things that schools or organisations can do. First of all, recognising that it's an issue and being quite comfortable with saying that it is an issue that the school or organisation wants to address, and then putting in place various initiatives like setting up a club or something, or a society which brings girls or women together and then as part of that group ask the girls or women what it is they want from that group. And so it could be education, it could be facilities, it could be connections, it could be so many things, and then support the girls or women in those groups to get that support, and also champion the group as well with everyone within the organisation. So it's not kind of seen as some sort of group over there. It's like, we're very proud of this group, and this group is doing this, this, and this, and we're delighted, and kind of like showing off about what the group or what the women or girls in the group are doing. Looking at things like within organisations, looking at things like the gender pay gap. So I don't know if you have that, if you talk about that in Brazil, but in the UK, that's been a big thing for quite a long time. So making sure that women are treated fairly in the workplace, and being open about wanting to do that. I think a lot of it is around how the whole issue around women being in a minority and being able to support them within a culture which is, I think in general our culture is a bit misogynistic, and that can be women being misogynistic as well as men. So I think it's not men are bad guys and women are great. Not that women aren't great, but I think it's more like there's people that recognise that women have a harder time than men, and some of them are men and some of them are women, and want to do something about it. And so I think just demonstrating clearly as part of the culture that people from ethnic minorities and minorities, which is women in STEM, as a group, are championed within the organisation, rather than kind of it's seen as like a side issue.
Thank you for this answer. They are all amazing, all inspiring. We have a question here that we collected from our questionnaire. It says, "Hi Sue, great to meet you. My question is, how can I build professional and personal trust to keep striving to make a difference and become a reference in the field, even with the constant no's and delays in achieving the desired results and goals?"
Sorry, the constant what? The constant
No's and delays. Let me repeat.
Receiving no's.
No's, yeah.
Oh, no.
No's. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Oh, sorry, I didn't understand. Yeah, I think again, like surround yourself with other women, other girls that are trying to achieve what you are. Also, find mentors and role models and talk to them and ask them to help you. And again, they could be men or women. Just really, I think, support each other and find other people that can help you get to where you want to get to. And don't be scared to ask, and don't be scared of getting no's, because like when I'm thinking about the Bletchley Park campaign, goodness knows how many people I contacted to try and get them to help out. It will be thousands, and probably for about every 50 to 100 no's, I got one yes. So don't think that everyone is going to say yes, and it doesn't matter if almost everyone says no. As long as you get some yeses, then it's all good. But just keep going. Don't give up.
Sue, for finalizing our talk today, could you tell us some encouragement for girls who are listening to you right now, for girls from primary school, secondary schools, and want to become in the field, in STEM field? Could you?
Yeah. So I think that technology is the most exciting area to get into. Well, STEM is the most exciting area to get into. I'm in technology, so I'm going to say technology. Because so much of what we do now, so much of how we can change the world for the better is connected into technology. So the more that you understand tech, the more that you put yourself forward and get out there and find out the things that you want to find out. Get together with people that want to solve the same kind of problems that you do in the world, whatever they are. So it could be, how to solve poverty, how to make improvements in healthcare, or it could be you love coding and you want to build an app. There's just so many opportunities for everything that you want to do, really, I think, through technology and through STEM. So, if you want to get out there and change the world and earn a good salary, because STEM jobs are well paid, then just get out there and go for it.
So thank you so much, Sue, to stay with us today, to start our talks in our project. Our project, the name, it's a trick because it's stimulating, like STEM.
Yeah.
Futures. So we hope to stimulate futures for different girls, and we hope improve our country and the lives of many girls. So thank you so much for this inspiration. I think you are talking, I already knew you are, I already know your history,
Yeah.
but even though I listened today and I started to thinking all kind of stuff we can do, all
Great.
of different things we can do for other women. So thank you so much to revive all this in my mind and to talk with us with this open heart. So thank you so much. Thank you all that you with us. And I'll start a little bit in Portuguese right now. Muito obrigada, pessoal, por estar aqui conosco hoje. A gente espera que vocês tenham aproveitado essa palestra inspiradora e com certeza faremos novas palestras com outras mulheres que nos inspiram. Muito obrigada pela presença de vocês. Thank you so much, Sue, for your presence here and for your talk.
You're very welcome. Obrigada. Lovely to see you.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, everybody.
So we have